everyone, this is Bunny. Today we are going to talk about applying yellow. Yellow is the bane of many a painter's existence because it doesn't go on very smooth and it tends to leave kind of almost color gaps so you can see the color beneath. It's really annoying. So applying yellow is one of the worst things because it just doesn't go on very smooth. Now, if you're applying yellow like in a way I did to this Phoenix here, you get it shining through a lot. Like I did a base coat of yellow and went over it. So that can work really well. And when I did that, I knew the black was going to shine through, but I wanted it to. But if you don't want your blacks to shine through, then you actually have to do something about that. You actually have to think ahead and decide how you are going to apply your yellow. Because if we just use a black primer, and I just take a sunny lemon yellow, nice and bright, and I start trying to go over this, it's not going to dry nice and solid. So I'm just going over the thatch here with a nice bright yellow because I dumb it down later with a wash. But I want my thatch a nice bright yellow. But this is going to take way too many coats. Look at how thin that goes on. So if I do this, I am in for a nightmare of getting this to cover. Okay, this does not cover. It's simply not covering. Look at that. And I can do probably 4 or 5 coats before I get the result I want. It's just not gonna happen. And it's the most irritating thing on the planet. So when you actually want to cover yellow, when you actually want full color coverage of your yellow paints, there is a little bit of a technique to it because that's what you're going to get. It's going to dry and it's going to be thin and that color is going to bleed through. And unlike most of the colors we apply, what's going to happen is this just isn't going to cover. It's going to be so freaking annoying that you're going to lose your mind a little bit trying to get it to cover properly. So let's turn this over. I'm going to let that dry and then we are going to just kind of ignore that I did that and I'll go over it later. But the better way to pull this off is to start with a base coat of white. So let's do that. I'm using the same type of paint, same brand, same consistency, same thickness. But look at how much better this white covers. Now, even if you're using a yellow primer, for some reason, the yellow going onto primer is really irritating. So even if you've used a yellow or a white primer, this is still an excellent technique. So let's just get the same 2 layers. Oops, I just got yellow all over my brush. That's not what we want. Let's just clean that up. Scoop that off. I just got yellow on my brush. That's annoying. But we'll just take some white. So let's just take the white. Go over this. Slight yellow tinge now because there's a little yellow in my paint. But that's not that big a deal. So just go over that. We'll do the same amount on both sides. Okay. And now we've just done the white. There we go. Just make sure I got in all the grooves. You want to make sure you get on all the grooves on both sides. So now what we're going to do is let this dry. Because if you look, that actually already has way more coverage than that. So we are going to let these dry. I'm just going to set it down, let it dry on both sides, and then we'll come back and we will apply yellow on top of that white, and you'll see how much better it covers. We'll put yellow on top of both colors, and you'll see that it makes a huge difference. But I can't show you that till that paint's dry, because you always got to let your base layer cure first. So we're going to let that dry for, it'll probably take about 1.5 hours. Then we will come back, and I'll show you how to finish up with your yellow coverage. All right, our paint is dry. So we are going to add now a layer of yellow on top. So I'm just going to get a little bit of yellow. So if you take a look, that is pretty transparent. That's much thicker. So let's go over the yellow with another coat of yellow. There we go. Put this yellow on. So we're only doing 2 coats. Yellow over here, white on the other side, and then we will come back when it's dry and see how it looks. Okay, I need a little more yellow on my brush. So that is what it looks like when the yellow is still wet. Remember, that is just 2 coats of yellow, no white undercoat. Now let's flip it over and add yellow on top of the white. There we go. Get that in there. Always go in the direction of, so if you're painting thatching, go in the direction of the thatching. It helps you get into all those little crevices. There we go. So you can already see that that is more coverage. So that is over white. That is over yellow. So we are going to let that dry, and then we will come back and take a look at the finished product so I can show you exactly how much better it is to use a white undercoat if you were doing a yellow tone. We'll be back as soon as it's dry. All right, the paint is dry, so let's take a look. This is the side where we painted only yellow. So you can see the dark black underneath shining through. That yellow didn't cover very well, even though it's 2 coats of yellow. Flipping over to the side where we started with a white base, you can see much, much better coverage. Could it use 1 more coat? Maybe, if I want it to be super consistent. I don't, because I am going to be washing this eventually, because it is supposed to look like thatch, so I don't want it super consistent. But that is way better than that. This is not consistent at all. Look at how thin it is in some areas, and that's still 2 coats. This is also 2 coats, but it's a coat of white and a coat of yellow. The 2 paints are the same brand, they're the same consistency, they're the same thickness. So it really does work to do a quick coat of white underneath the yellow. That will just give you a better base for covering. And that applies even if you're using a white or a gray primer. It just makes a lot of difference to use that little bit of white as a base just to give your yellows or your yellow tones. So some of your greens, some of your oranges will also benefit from this. It just helps with the coverage a little bit. So do yourself a favor, use a little bit of white when you need to, because you'll go from this to this. Same number of passes, but this is just better. Now that is about it for today. I hope that was useful to you, and I hope you'll be back with us next time. Bye!